going on YouTube? 6'5" Rider here, coming back to you with another video. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about the Indian FTR1200. But before we do that, let's go ahead and take a moment of silence for the beloved Indian FTR. Since a couple of weeks ago, Indian announced that they're discontinuing this model and they will no longer be producing it after 2025. All right, that was a good moment of silence for this beast. This bike ran from 2019 all the way up until 2025. You guys will have to excuse the noise back there because we're actually in a RC field out here in Delray Beach, Florida. A lot of people come and bring their little RC planes and fly them out here. Anyway, I've owned my Indian FTR for about a year and some change, probably 4 months or so. I've put about 2,500 miles on the bike, and so I feel like I've gotten enough of a taste of the bike to be able to speak about it and pretty much do a long-term review of it. I know some of you are judging me for only putting 2,500 miles on the bike. However, I do have another motorcycle. I have my Road Glide, which is actually my primary motorcycle that I use all the time, and I only take the FTR usually when I'm ripping around town or going somewhere close, just because, you know, the comfort and whatnot. Now, if you're not familiar with the Indian FTR, it is one hell of a motorcycle. It's powered by a 1203cc V-twin engine that produces about 120 horsepower and I believe it was 89 foot-pounds of torque. As you can tell from these numbers, this engine is super torquey all the way up to the mid-range, up until you hit that peak horsepower of 120. Now, Indian actually has produced a bunch of different trims for the FTR. This is basically the entry level. It is the Indian FTR Rally. They also have the FTR-S, the FTR Carbon, and a couple of other models for each year. Now, the Rally model is actually a little bit different than the rest of the trim line, specifically in the case where it comes with the 19-inch front wheel and 18-inch in the back. The rest of the trims on the FTR have the 17-inch wheels front and back to accommodate a more traditional type of motorcycle and to accommodate a wide variety of tires. It also comes standard with the spoke wheels for 2022 and these Pirelli Scorpion STR knobby tires. This is to give it more of that scrambler look and to allow you to be able to take it off-road, basically. The other thing that differentiates the FTR Rally from the rest of the trims is the longer suspension. I believe it's longer by an inch, and that is to accommodate for being able to take the bike off-road and give it that scrambler character. I don't have much experience with the other trim levels of the FTR. The only other FTR that I've ridden before was actually a 2019 model, and the 2019 model has the original tire size, which is the 19 front, 18 rear. I believe the 17-inch wheel started in 2022 to make the bike feel more like a sport bike, because a lot of people had issues taking corners and whatnot where they felt the bike was a little bit heavy because of the bigger and non-traditional tire size. It's perfect for the Rally though, because you can actually scramble with this motorcycle. The bike also comes with the Brembo master cylinder with the steel braided lines, and you got your Brembo brakes front and back. The bike is also powered by this LED headlamp, which is really cool because it's got that Indian sign on it right here. And as well as the tail light, I think this is one of the coolest features of this bike, where you see the little Indian logo over here. We'll go ahead and take it out here in a little bit to show you guys the cockpit onboard view of this motorcycle and how it feels in general. But before we do that, I want to give some overall thoughts about the motorcycle. I personally love this bike, and like I said, I've owned it for a little bit over a year. Reliability wise, I haven't really had many issues with it. I did have an issue, which I'll post a picture of here, with the gauge cluster and the little plastic piece kind of popped off, and that was changed under warranty. Problem is, it took like 3 or 4 weeks before the part came. I could still ride the bike, everything was fine, but it was like playing around inside the gauge cluster. It was super annoying whenever you're riding. The only other issue I had with the bike was with the throttle control. I'll also try to link a video up here of what it looks like, but it was like super sensitive, and the minute I touched it, it would like rev up, so there was like no play whatsoever. And what I actually did to fix that issue was I took apart the whole housing for the throttle, and I got some contact cleaner and just doused it in it. I think there was just some dirt stuck in there. The other thing when it comes to reliability is the stock battery is absolute garbage. The stock battery that comes with this bike tends to die, and you'll see that on all the FTR forums. A lot of people recommend putting on an aftermarket battery, specifically a lithium battery. So that's what I did. I got the Noco LP14 battery. I'll put a link of it in the description below. So yeah, that's one thing that you'll probably need to do as soon as you get your bike, or maybe 6 months in, is go ahead and change that stock battery, because it did leave me stranded one time, even though I always have it on the tender. Otherwise, as far as reliability, I haven't really had any issues with the bike. It's been great. It's, especially in the past 2,500 miles that I've ridden it, haven't had any issues so far. No oil leaks, you know, knock on wood, nothing else. It's honestly been a wonderful bike from a reliability standpoint. Now the styling on this bike, I want to say, is next level. I don't know if you guys ever had the chance to watch the Ryan F9 video. I'll go ahead and link it in the description here as well, but that video kind of, you know how it is with Ryan F9 with all his videos. They're super creative and they allow you to kind of visualize the beauty of this bike. So in my opinion, this is actually one of the most beautiful bikes that were ever made. I obviously can't explain it like he did in his video, just because he has his own way, and he was talking about how the lines of the bike are so sleek. So I really recommend you go watch that video if you haven't, and then you'll be able to see what I'm talking about here. So yeah, in my opinion, this is one of the prettiest bikes that were ever made. And I do feel lucky to own one, which is pretty cool. It's definitely a piece of history, especially with the bike being discontinued right now. I do want to talk about handling a little bit on the bike. So seeing that I live in flat South Florida, basically, it's really hard for me to kind of speak about handling on this bike when it comes to taking corners, or, you know, going up to the mountains and hitting the twisty roads and whatnot. A lot of people complain about the 19-inch front, 18-inch in the back. They say that it makes it feel a little bit heavy when you're taking corners, but like I said, I rented one in the past when I was up in Virginia, and honestly, I was able to take those corners, and it felt so good to me. Like, maybe because I haven't ridden one with a 17-inch front and back that I don't know what I'm missing out. But honestly, I didn't see any negatives of the 1918s. Even in the, you know, little bit of twistier roads that we have down here, it's always been great. I mean, the handling is awesome on this bike. It is kind of annoying on the highway, especially that, you know, this is a naked motorcycle, naked upright motorcycle. So once you're on the highway, the wind hits you like crazy. And especially if you're going, you know, illegal speeds, I want to say, you're holding on for dear life, man. Like, I'd be on this, like on the handlebars, just holding so hard to not like fly off the bike, or I'd have to kind of duck down. And I feel like that's a problem with all naked bikes, but the other issue with this is that it has such a thin frame that when you're sitting on it, it feels, it doesn't feel super stable, you know what I mean, as far as the seating position. And this is like back to its heritage, because this started as part of Indian flat track racing, and that's why you see like all the lines of the bike are super flat, you know what I mean? Even when you're sitting, which I'll do here in a second, your knees don't really hug the tank. Like for me, for example, I'm 6'5". When I'm sitting, my knees are higher than the tank. Let me go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. So this is what I look like when I'm sitting on the bike. And as you can see, like there's nothing really to hug, because the tank is just so flat up here and so flat down here. There's no area where you can tuck your knees inside to kind of hide it and kind of tuck into the bike. So like, just because it's so flat here, like right over here, I don't know, feels a little bit unstable once you're sitting on the bike. I do want to say that, you know, for around town riding and whatnot, it is a pretty comfortable riding position. Kind of gives you that ability to really control the bike and dial it in how you want to. But like when you're going at faster speeds, like, let me bring the camera here a little bit. Once you're sitting like here, like it's really hard to be stable on it, just because, you know, you feel like you're sitting on top of like a 2x4 kind of, with nothing there where you're like hugging your legs around. You know what I mean? Like, I'm used to having bikes with, you know, a bigger tank that you can, like, as you're riding and you're ripping it, you're able to hug the tank with your legs to kind of keep you stable. This one, it's hard to hug it just because of how low the tank sits. And this is also not the tank, by the way, you guys. The tank is actually under the seat. And especially being a bigger guy, whenever I'm riding this bike, I do maybe 30, 45 minutes, and then I want to get off. I want to get off for a break or something, just because it's not the most comfortable seat. For me as a bigger guy, it's not the most comfortable seating position. And that really annoys me. And so that's why I don't ride it as often as I do the Road Glide, because obviously when I'm going, you know, all the way down to like Miami or Fort Lauderdale or something, Cafe 27, I always rather be on the Road Glide because it's just a more comfortable ride, especially when you're trying to rip some miles on the highway. But for around town, it seems like a good bike. If you're a smaller guy, I want to say, like, you know, anywhere between 5'7" all the way up to maybe 6'1" maximum, I think you'll be way more comfortable than I am on this bike, and I feel like you'll be able to ride it for a longer period of time. Now, before we go ahead and take the bike out, to kind of finish my thoughts and overall impressions of this bike, I want to go ahead and let you guys listen to it. I want to turn on the bike. I do have an aftermarket exhaust on this. I'll put a clip here of what it sounded like in stock form, and then I'll turn it on for you guys to hear the aftermarket slip-on. See. Here's a cold start. Now, as mentioned, the other thing I really like about this bike is when you see a dirt road like this, you can just freaking go on it. Because of the scrambler tires, you know, because of the knobby tires and whatnot. So it's freaking cool, man, that I can do that with my bike. And bro, mind you, I have literally zero off-road experience. And I'm able to get on a dirt road like this with all ease. Now, it's always hard for me because I'm like really tall. Like I said, I was 6'5". It's really hard for me to stand up on a motorcycle. But I mean, hey, I'm doing it. We'll see how it goes. I need a bigger motorcycle to be able to stand up on it, you know what I mean? Now, obviously, this is not like a real off-roading road. I mean, it's just a dirt road, but hey, it's working. You just gotta have a lot of throttle control because this big 1203cc engine can really get you in trouble here. Well, that was fun, you guys. I really need to get myself a nice dirt bike, like a, you know, I say dirt bike, but because I'm such a big guy, I need a bigger dirt bike, something like KLR 650 or a DRZ 650 or a DRZ 400, something that will accommodate my weight going off-road. Anyway, this bike is awesome, dude. It's so fast for a scrambler. Like, I really think it's the fastest out of all the scramblers. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think there's a quicker scrambler out there. Like, definitely not the Ducati scrambler. Definitely not the Triumph scrambler. Maybe the BMW R9T, I can see that being close in numbers from for torque and horsepower. Ducati Desert X, I don't think that compares in the same category though. But this bike is fast, dude, especially ever since I got it tuned. It just keeps going, dude. It doesn't want to stop. It doesn't want to stop. It just keeps going. And then it's a scrambler that you can also take, you know, go super fast on, but then you can also take it off-road. I mean, how cool is that? And it's got cruise control. So like I'm going here, there you go, I'm activating cruise control right now. Cruise control, buddy. Yes sir. Cruise control is freaking awesome. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't trust riding with the cruise control on, blah blah blah, on the highway. I don't feel like taking off my hands, but you know how comfortable that is to be able to take your hands off for a little bit once you're riding for a while. Okay, let me see if I can. No, there's a car coming. Buddy, it's a quick bike, man. It's a quick bike. Like, I ain't gonna lie, dude. It's a quick bike. Got 6 gears, obviously, so it's pretty comfortable at higher speeds. The only problem is, and again, this might be just because it's a naked bike, is that when you're on the highway, not a 2-lane road like this, no, actual highway, bro, you're getting rocked left and right, because all the wind is coming and kind of hitting you straight in the chest, and you're kind of holding on for dear life as you're riding. But then you drop a gear and you hit it and you're like, oh, whatever. It's definitely a bike that's not made for comfort. I mean, definitely not comfort in mind. I am comfortable on this bike for about 30 minutes, riding in the city, maybe riding in the twisties up in the mountains, but definitely not in straight flat highways. So who do I think this bike is for? It's definitely, and you can quote me on this like 100 times, it's definitely not a beginner bike, because it's just got so much torque to the point where it's like unforgiving, you know what I mean? Especially in the lower RPMs. A new rider has no business being on this bike. Let me just say it like that. I'll be frank about it. Could be a decent second bike once you get your bearings and you kind of been on the road for about a year or so, but definitely not a first bike. So take that however you want it. The other category, I want to say that it's definitely a good second bike. So for example, in my use case, I have the Road Glide as my primary motorcycle, and then I have the Indian FTR as pretty much my secondary bike. You know, whenever I don't feel like starting the Road Glide or going somewhere close by to the house, like hitting the gym or something like that, that's when I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like riding, don't want to take the Road Glide, I'll take the FTR. The only problem with that being is there's no storage whatsoever, dude. Nothing. No storage on this bike whatsoever. Like when I mean no storage, I mean like not even a place under the seat where you can put your registration. So that's pretty freaking annoying. If you haven't watched my top 5 things I love and top 5 things I hate about this bike, I'll link it up here. Feel free to go ahead and check it out, because I go a little deeper into those topics. And then finally, I think the final category of people who I think would be happy with this bike is somebody that lives in, know, in the mountains of North Carolina, in the mountains of Tennessee or Virginia or something like that, where you know, you can take the bike down a twisty road and kind of rip on it, and then you're done with that, you kind of take it down a dirt road. I think that's like the perfect use case for this bike. If you live in those states or in a place that has mountains and has nice corners and twisties and whatnot, you'll be very happy with this bike. Living where I do in South Florida, bro, I don't feel like this is the right bike, even as a secondary bike. I don't feel like it's the right bike for me here, because it's just like, I'm not enjoying it to its fullest. Has a USB port, but that's something that I installed because the FTR Rally, out of all the FTRs, does not come with a USB port, because I guess, oh, scrambler, meaning people that scramble don't have phones or something? I don't know, whatever. Cost me 50 bucks from the Indian website. I bought it and installed it. It was already wired and everything. I just needed to plug it in. Bike doesn't seem too happy with me right now, as I was just ripping on it like crazy. Sorry, bike. I'm actually going back home to Virginia next week to spend some time with my extended family, and guess what I'm doing? Taking this baby with me. So hopefully I'll be able to bring you guys a video or two of ripping on this thing on some twisty roads. So what I might do when I'm in Virginia is I might actually leave the bike up there. Leave it at my in-laws. And pretty much ride it whenever I'm up there, because that's where it's happy, not down here, unfortunately. Anyway, that was a lot, you guys. That was a lot, and I know it was a lot, and I'm sorry, but I wanted to get all this information out to you guys. Stay tuned for my next video. I'm gonna do a quick walk around of the bike and tell you guys all the upgrades that I've done to it. They're very small and very subtle, but I just want to show them to you guys. And if you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. And also, if you're not subscribed, don't forget to go ahead and click that as well, so that you are notified whenever I post new videos. Alright, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Later.